if you look at the IT major results, both Infosys and TCS have reported fairly strong numbers, very strong commentary coming in from TCS management, and Infosys also has upgraded the revenue as well as the margin guidance. However, it's been a clear outperformance by Infosys on quite a few parameters versus TCS. Firstly, just look at the revenue growth in this quarter. Revenues for Infosys have grown at 4% quarter on quarter in constant currency terms versus the TCS, when the growth has been at 4.8%. However, on a YOY basis, Infosys revenue in fact grew 2.2% in constant currency terms, but TCS revenues did contract 3.2% on a YOY basis. Even in the last quarter, while Infosys revenue did contract nearly around 2%, the contraction was far sharper for TCS of over 6%. So clear outperformance coming in on the revenue front in both Q1 as well as in Q2. Margin expansion also has been there both for Infosys and TCS, around 260 bips, but Infosys margin expansion has been far higher than expectations at 260 bips. There is an expectation that the gap between Infosys as well as the TCS margins may in fact narrow over a period of time. For Q2, the TCS reported margins of 26.2% and Infosys reported margins of 25.4%. In the previous quarter, Infosys margins stood at 22.7%. So if you look at the gap, both in the first quarter and the second quarter, in TCS, the TCS has outperformed Infosys on by 90 bips, and a similar outperformance there, even in the second quarter. But the band for Infosys is certainly narrowing in terms of the margins. Revenue growth for Infosys has been fairly broad-based. If you look at the YOY growth, BFSI, which forms over 30% of the revenues for both TCS and Infosys, BFSI segment has grown at 2.9% versus a contraction of minus 1.1% for TCS. High-tech vertical has grown at 24.4% for Infosys versus a contraction of 1.5% for TCS. Retail has reported a marginal degrowth of 0.3% for Infosys versus a retail contraction of 5.7%, and also the communication vertical has degrown at 1.8% for Infosys versus a contraction of 10.1% for TCS. So if you look at the YOY growth for TCS, well, barring life sciences segment which has reported positive growth, almost all the segments have reported degrowth. But Infosys, there is a clear outperformance in retail, high tech, the BFSI as well as the communication vertical versus TCS. Besides that, of course, the question is that will the valuation gap between both TCS and Infosys narrow? Well, if you look at TCS, it trades at 28x FY22 multiple. Infosys trades at 24x FY22 multiple. There are expectations that with the kind of growth and EBIT margin expansion, we possibly may see more outperformance coming in from Infosys. However, both these companies have been gaining significant market share. TCS reported a fairly strong commentary. Management stated they are witnessing the start of the first phase of a multi-year technology transformation cycle, and Infosys hiked the revenue guidance for FY21 to 2 to 3% in constant currency terms, and operating margin is seen at 23 to 24% for FY21 for Infosys. So yes, outperformance coming in from Infosys. Will the valuation gap between Infosys and TCS narrow or not? We will have to watch out for that. But as of now, clear wins coming in there from the IT space.